Good morning, everyone. Leah Dixon here from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. I am live today for my regular weekly card class. Today I am featuring the Tropical Leaf Bundle. So it's a stamp set and punch, and these are actually not available in our regular Stampin' Up! Catalog. These are what we call online exclusives. And so these are products that you can only find online. You can still, if you are the type of person who orders through me and calls me and places your order that way, you can still order them that way. But you can also just go online and check out our whole selection of online exclusives. Good morning, Gail. Thanks for joining. And so I just wanted to really make sure that you guys were aware of some of these online products. So we're using this stamp set and punch bundle today, as well as some specialty paper that's an online exclusive as well. So I'm going to switch over to my desktop and we'll get started crafting. If you are here and watching and want to put your comments in, like say hello online, then I'll be able to see who's here. I always love to see who's joining me this morning. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way for now. And we're actually not going to start with our first card. We're going to start creating an element for our second card, which is, and this might actually end up being our third. We'll see how quickly things dry. It's pretty hot today. We're actually going to do this really cool background for this card, and we're using some Fluid 100 paper. So this is Stampin' Up's watercolor paper. It actually comes in a pack like this. I believe you get 10 sheets. And so I am using half a sheet, like literally just cut it in half. And that's what we're using to create this background. So that's our Fluid 100 watercolor paper. But we're actually not doing like true watercoloring on this. What we're going to do is a technique called ink smooshing. This is one of my favorite ways to create backgrounds. I'll actually just sit and do like a whole bunch in one go and let them dry, and then I've got them ready to go for other projects. So I'm taking some pretty peacock ink and I'm smushing the ink pad onto my big, this is the block F. So if you don't have this block, you could use a silicone mat, you could use the inside of a DVD case or like a stamp case, anything that's going to be waterproof because we're about to spritz it with water and that is larger than the piece of paper you're using. That's kind of the only criteria. All right, now before I go any further, I also always keep, this is just a package from an old set of designer series paper. So it's got the cardboard in it to keep it stiff and it's got the plastic coating. And I just like to put this down on my desktop so that I don't get anything wet while I'm working on this. Because the next thing I'm going to do is grab our Stampin' Spritzer. This is just filled with water. And I'm going to spritz this a few times to make it nice and watercolory. There we go. So now I've got some wet ink here. You could use more watercolor paper and create a bunch of different kinds of backgrounds when you do this, but I'm actually just going to grab a piece of scrap paper for my first go. And I am going to fold it in half and just put it down and lift it up. All right. So you can see it does create a really nice full color background. But now that I've got a bunch of that water off and I can kind of make this more splotchy, actually I'm just going to grab a tissue as well because I don't want this going all the way out to the corner. I'm going to create kind of like a sharper edge on here. There we go. So with that kind of toned down, I am going to take my watercolor paper, lay it down, give it a little smush, lift it up, and I kind of like that, but I would like a little bit more soft color to it. So I'm going to set it off to the side and add a little bit more water. There we go. And then I'm going to take that same piece, put it down in the same general area, and give it another smush and lift it. And there we go. I like that. That's more of the look I was going for, with kind of softer colors and some darker splotches. So now that we've got a background that we like, we're going to just set that off to the side and let it dry. So the joy of having this all on acrylic blocks and with the plastic background is I can now just take a tissue, wipe up any excess, just get away all the water so I can put that block away. And I can also just wipe up this background, and I don't have a wet background left behind to work on. I can just move that, and now I've got a nice clean dry spot to work on. So when I do those, I typically don't do one at a time. I would often do multiples and end up with lots of different looks for that fun kind of watercolor background. So that is that. And so we're going to put all those things off to the side now. And we're going to create at least our first card, if not our third card, and then we'll come back and use that piece. So our first card actually has very few pieces in the kit. Oh, good morning. So this one has very few pieces in the kit, but it's actually a really beautiful, easy, fun card to create. Now I'm going to end up getting ink on it if I leave it there. So I'm going to put it up there in our top left corner. And I am going to start with just our piece of pool party cardstock and our small leaf from the Tropical Leaf stamp set. And again, Pretty Peacock ink. And all I'm going to do with this is create basically a designer series paper using this small leaf. Normally you would do like stamp on, stamp off, except that, well, in this case I can. When you stamp the first one and part of it goes off the edge, well, here, I'll show you. If I stamp like that and then I go to do my stamp off, the parts that didn't originally stamp are going to be dark and the other part's going to be light. So I don't want that on my paper. So for the most part, when we do our stamping off, it's going to be stamping off onto our side paper, not onto the DSP that we're creating. Okay, there we go. So I think that's enough dark bits. Let's do a bunch of stamped off images now. And here like that. And so really the pattern that you use here is completely up to you. What appeals to you, how dark do you want it to be, how light do you want it to be. And let's just put one more leaf in here. I don't think it'll show, but we'll see. There we go. And maybe a little point there and a little point right there. All right, so we've got our designer series paper created. At this point, if you wanted to stamp the inside of your card or something, you could, or stamp your envelope. I actually pre-stamped my envelope to match the leaves that we're about to make the big leaves. So I just did a small leaf in Granny Apple Green and then the veins in Pretty Peacock. So I'm going to put that off to the side, and I will show you guys how we're going to create this fun background, because we've just got a square right now. We need to turn that into our full page background. So I'm going to take this DSP, this one that we just created. Now this, I got to turn my board around. I've got it upside down. So the part that I want to kind of be the top, I am actually going to put in this way. So the top right corner is going to line up at the 2-inch line. The top left corner, I'm going to line it up at the 1-inch line. Now, if you don't get them at exactly the 1 and the 2, it's not the end of the world, because all you're doing is creating a diagonal. And so you go like that, and now you've got your two pieces with a nice diagonal cut between them. So yeah, as long as this side, so when you place it down on your paper, you've got your top right side, you want a 2-inch border, so you're going to place it at the 2-inch mark, and then you want a 1-inch piece here, so you place it at the 1-inch mark, and that's going to give you that diagonal cut. All right, so with that cut just like that, I am now going to just simply glue these pieces to a thick basic white card base. So just keeping an equal border on the sides and top, and then that gives us that nice big gap in the center. So as usual, I am going to use my liquid glue and do this. All right. So I hope you guys are having a great week. The heat has been a lot, but luckily we were away camping and had the very, very cold Chilliwack Lake to cool us off. So that was good. Today is going to be a river day, I think, to beat the heat. Okay. So we've got those two pieces glued down, and we are good to move on to the next part of our card. So I'm actually just going to stamp my sentiment right now on my card. If you're not using the same sentiment as me, you might want to cut your leaves first before you stamp your sentiment to make sure that you're going to leave enough space. But I know that mine will fit because it's a nice small sentiment. So I'm just going to stamp my hello right on there in that space. I love the font in this set. It is so pretty. All right, so with that done, we'll put that to the side. We're going to grab this piece now, and we're going to work on those accent leaves that we've got. So I am going to ink this up with Granny Apple. I do love they're clear, so it makes it, oh, so I got some fuzz on there. Thanks. They're clear, so it makes it really easy to see if you've got them properly inked or not. So stamp one there, and then I'm going to turn that around and stamp this here. The reason I'm turning it around is because we're using a punch. I want to be able to just hold the paper in the correct direction to be able to use our punch. Okay. Then I'm going to grab our Pretty Peacock ink, and we've got this set that creates the veins for these leaves. So just ink that up in Pretty Peacock, line that up through the center, and there we go. And turn it around and do the same on the other side. There we go. All right, so with those leaves created, I am now going to grab the punch, and this one lines up really nicely. There's one. And there's two. All right. So with those done, we're going to start putting together the bits on our card. Now, I am using the Simply Elegant trim. So this is actually 2 rolls of metallic trim. You get a silver and a gold. So I am using the silver today on this card. And all I'm going to do is create a nice big bow. So tie those. You can see it's got nice big ends on both ends. Oops, there we go. Snip that off. And then this is just going to get glued down right to our card front. So I'm actually, you can use a mini glue dot. I'm just going to use a little dash of Seal Plus. And I'm I'm just going to pop that down. Now you want to make sure that you've got it adjusted the way you want it before you glue it down, because you won't be able to move that knot anymore. But the other nice thing about it is you can use that Seal Plus to help direct your ends. All right. And I can also use my fingernail to kind of pull on those and straighten them out or curve them how I want them. All right. I want this one slightly curved the other way. There we go. Oh, other way. So with the ribbon, you just kind of play, or the trim, you just kind of play around with it till it goes the direction you want it to go. And then I'm going to hide that mess, the knot and everything, with my leaves. So I'm just going to put some dimensionals on them. So my first one, I'm going to put a dimensional at the bottom and at the top. Peel those backings off. And then kind of look, where do I want this? And just like that. And then this one's going to go in like that. So now I can see where to put that dimensional. And for this one, it's kind of off to the side instead of centered. And then at the top. Okay, and then go in like that. And our leaves sit really nicely like that. Okay, final touch on this is to add some, oh, I always forget if they're natural or neutral. Neutrals adhesive back sequins is what we're using. So these have the gold, bronze, copper, and white in them. And I just got a few little extras here. So I am just going to, oops, throw them all around. So I'm going to put one there, pop one up there, and put another one down over here. So you can decorate yours how you want. I use mine to kind of fill in the empty spaces. So it just depends on how the ribbon sits and how the words went down on the page as to where I'm going to position things. And that's our first card completed. So it's a really quick and easy card. But I think just really fun and summery and yeah, just great. So these I'm going to be using to send off some happy mail. I follow Random Acts of Kindness group, and today I actually really liked it. Their thing was to send a handwritten letter to someone. So I'm going to create a few of those and send them off to some people I haven't seen enough of this summer. All right, so that's that one done. We'll put that to the side. And we'll just check on our watercolor and see how it's doing. Still feeling a little bit damp. You can speed up the process by heating it with a heat tool, but I always find the paper lays flatter if you just let it dry naturally. So we'll work on our third card while we wait for that to dry. So there we go. We have our third card here. And this one is one of my favorite layouts. I've been doing so much work with this layout. So we've got just a pretty peacock card base here and a white liner, and I am just going to get started just popping that. Actually, you know what? I'm not. I'm going to actually do some fun stamping on both the inside and the front of my card. So here we go. What we're going to do is clean up our leaves because I'm going to be stamping them in a different color. We're not going to use our granny apple. Oh, good morning. It just says Facebook user. So I'm not sure who just joined, but thank you for being here. So I'm just using my Simply Chamois to clean up these pieces so that we can get started in a whole new color. So I'm going to take that liner as well as the larger piece to stamp our leaves. And we're going to stamp our leaves in crumb cake, which I know might not be a typical color you'd think of for tropical leaves, but that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to grab my small leaf and stamp it to the inside of my card twice, just peeking off on those corners. I'm also going to grab my envelope and do the same thing, but on the opposite corner. There we go. Two little leaves peeking in on that corner. And then we're going to grab our big leaf. And just like we did with the granny apple leaves on our last card, I am going to stamp two of them, one on each end. There we go. Just like that. Okay, so we've got our leaves all stamped with crumb cake. And now we are going to do some heat embossing. So normally when I heat emboss, I say to you, you know, if you want to, or if you have it, you can use your powder pal that comes in the Additions embossing kit. Today, I'm going to tell you, you absolutely have to. Because we've already stamped ink onto these papers that we do not want our embossing powder to stick to, you absolutely have to do something, whether it's your embossing Additions kit and using your powder pal, or it's grabbing, I've heard dryer sheets work, or a little bit of cornstarch works. You need to do something to put a coating over top of the crumb cake ink. Otherwise, when we go to put down our embossing powder, it is literally just going to stick fully to those leaves, and you're not going to have gold veining, you're just going to have gold leaves. All right, so I've thoroughly covered those with our powder pal so that they have no kind of stickiness to them. Good morning, Lila. So with that done, I am going to put these guys all onto a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to grab my Versamark ink. Now, actually, I'm not going to do these all at once. I'm going to start with our big ones, and then I'll do our small ones. So I am going to use the veins now with Versamark ink, and you're not going to be able to see this very well, but I am stamping the veins in Versamark onto those leaves. Now you can see that Versamark does change the color. It can lighten or darken what you're stamping on. Now with that done, I am going to grab my gold, and this is why I'm working on a scrap piece of paper, because I don't keep gold in one of my trays. I keep white and silver in my trays, but I am using gold embossing powder from our Metallics embossing kit. All right. And I just covered that, and then I'll tap off the excess. There we go. And so now we've got that ready to heat up, but I'm going to emboss our other ones first before I heat them all up. Oh, hi, Kim. You know, sometimes technology is funny, eh? It's difficult to find things sometimes. Oh, now I don't even have these on a block. Darn it. I've got to grab those small ones. So both leaves have the leaf and the vein image. It's just that the large leaf is the only one that you can punch out. The small leaf, if you wanted them loose, you'd have to fussy cut them. All right, so now this guy, I'm going to come in here and stamp. And these ones I'm stamping a little bit off the page because they're, of course, stamped off the page. Okay, but I've just gone and dipped that into my gold, so I've got that ready to heat emboss. And then my inside lining as well. I've got that. I'll just stamp that and that. And I'll dip that in the gold. There. Now, the reason I did this all on a piece of scrap paper is because now I can make cleanup super simple, since this one I do have to clean up. And I'm just going to pick up my paper, fold it, and pour all that excess gold embossing powder back into my little jar. So quite handy that way, since this is one I don't use all the time, so I do have to clean it up. All right, now I have just a bit left here. I'm just going to brush that away. There we go. And now we can bring all these pieces back in, and we're going to heat them up. So that's one thing to know about heat embossing, is although you want to get the embossing powder onto the Versamark fairly quickly, you can do a few images, then you can add your powder, but just let them sit, and then you can come back and heat them up. So I won't be able to chat for a moment here while I heat these up, but we'll get these all heated. Okay, so that takes a little bit of time now that we have so many things to do, but we're all finished our embossing, and we're ready to kind of cut these out and start to work on our card. This one goes together really quickly now that we've got the embossing done. So we just punch those out. Love being able to get those pretty leaves like so quickly with the punch. All right, so with that done, we can start to bring in our other pieces. So this piece that we decorated, we're going to put to the inside of our card. Now we just have that really nice gold accent in there, and this can just get glued in. There we go. And pop that to the inside of our card. Okay. Now, to create the front of our card, I'm actually not going to use liquid glue, just because I'm going to use a specialty paper here that has some metallic on it, and I don't like to use liquid glue with metallics. Oh, I know, Kim, I love this set as well. So the paper I'm using here is our dry brushed metallic specialty paper, and so you get two sheets. You get one kind of in this pool party blue, and then one in the Calypso Coral, and then they both have the I don't know if it's gold or copper, it might say on the back. Oh, sorry. So it's Cajun Craze, Petal Pink, and Soft Succulent are the colors. And it doesn't say what kind of metallic it is, but I find it goes really well with both the gold and the copper. And just looks great. And so this is another one of our online exclusive products. So you can get that online only. And yeah, I just love this paper, but I do like to use a dry adhesive when I'm putting these on. I just find liquid glue and metallics don't go well together. So I'm just going to put a little bit of Seal Plus in each corner and then a little dab along the center. And then just going to line this up so that it has an equal border on the top and the two sides. Oh, don't stick. So I kind of am trying to line it up before I let it touch the paper. And then we put it down. Okay, so again, just the four corners. And what I love about using Seal Plus is you really can get all the way out to the corner. And then a little dab on the inside. All right. Okay, there we go. And then again, I'm going to actually switch that so you can see it's got a bit of a darker metallic spot. I'm just going to switch this one so it's off to the other corner. And we're going to lay that down. Okay, so now we need to create our centerpiece. And to do that, I have got a piece of Pool Party, and I have embossed it with the Time Worn Type 3D embossing folder. That's just in our annual catalog. But it's kind of hard to see at a distance. So I wanted to make it a little bit more visible. And the way we're going to do that is by grabbing a blending brush. So I've got mine here that's devoted to my darker greens. And I'm going to get my Pretty Peacock. Just going to ink that up a bit. And then lightly just blend over top of that embossing folder. There we go. And now that type on there just pops out. And you can do this with any embossing folder. If you're finding that the pattern that you've got going on isn't as bold as you would like it to be, sometimes we want really subtle, but sometimes we want it to be a bit more bold, then you can use a matching color or a totally different color, especially if you're using white as your background, and just really make that pop. So with that done, we're going to glue this onto the front of our card. And for this one, I will use liquid glue. There we go. So just a very, very thin layer of liquid glue on there. And then we're just centering it between those two pieces. Now, because this does have words on it, I did just make sure that my words were facing the right direction. There we go. All right. So that's our background created. Now we just get to do some decorating. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of do a little layout, like how do I want this? So I want these leaves on here. So obviously not coming off the card, but quite far over to the side. And these guys, I'm actually not even going to like pop up or anything. You could use liquid glue or some seal. And I'm just doing a little strip of Seal Plus behind them, popping that on and gluing it down. Little strip of seal, pop it on and glue it down. There we go. All right, so that's kind of how I want that. Now I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto my tag. Now this is the tailor-made tags, and I used the second smallest of the straight-edged tags. There's two different edged patterns, and you get 4 of each. So that's the tailor-made tags. And what I love about this size is that our thanks so much sentiment just perfectly fits in there. So again, I'm grabbing my pretty peacock ink. I'm going to ink up that sentiment, and then there we go. You just kind of look at the top of the H's and the bottom of the so much. Make sure it's all on the tag before you pop it down. And there you go. So the ribbon I am using on this card, I also believe is online only. I'd actually have to double check that one. But it is the vanilla and gold satined edged ribbon. I'm actually just going to double check. I don't know if this one's in our catalog or if it's online only. Oh no, this one is in our catalog on page 144. So it is a gorgeous, gorgeous ribbon. And this is a great one for Christmas cards and stuff as well. It's just a very rich, very lovely color. So I'm just going to pop that through and just get a sense of how much ribbon I need by creating a little bunny ear and a second little bunny ear. And then I'm going to snip off the excess. There we go. So it's all dependent on how much ribbon you want, how big of a bow you want, as to how long you're going to cut that piece. All right. So with my two little bunny ears, I've not even tied a knot here, you guys. It's just put it through the hole, make my bunny ears, and wrap them around each other. So we're not even creating an additional knot or anything. The paper behind this is going to be what gives us our tension and holds it in place. And that's going to allow us to have a bow on here that's not overly bulky, because I don't want it to get like that giant knob of a knot on there. All right, and then I'm just going to fiddle with my ribbons until they lay how I want them to, because I want these to come in this way but not cover up my words. So just like that. And with that done, I can now trim up the ends so that they're tidy and equal length. And there we go. All right. And then this will get attached with dimensionals onto my card. There are my dimensionals. So I'm just popping two on here, one on each end. There we go. Bring that in. And then you decide how much of an angle you want this on and how high or how low you want it to be. I want mine to come down and cover the divide down here. So I've got that like that. And then we're going to decorate or embellish this with those neutral embellishments again. This time I am using the dark ones, the I guess it's bronze. And so I'm going to start by filling in this little space here because it just seemed too open. And then I'm going to kind of create a little triangle by placing some up there. So we've just created a little triangle on there. And even though the bronze is much darker than everything else, it just seems to kind of work with the colors of this one. Oh, hi, Janine. I know the shiny paper in DSP is awesome, or ribbon in DSP is awesome, eh? So just lots of shine on that one. And yeah, so that's our second card. And of course, we've got the beautiful decorated envelope as well. So that's technically our third card. We're going to come back now and create our second card, the one that we started right at the beginning. And so this one has that awesome watercolor background on it. And we're going to get this one all done. So we've done the hard work. We created our crazy water splotch background. Okay. So every card will look different, and you're going to have to look at your water splotch, decide which way you want it to go, do all that. All right. So let's get all the pieces out of here. So we've got our envelope with all the bits. And the first thing we're going to do is take this big piece and glue it to the inside of our card. If you want to decorate this up a bit, you can, or you can just leave it plain. For me on this one, I'm just going to leave it completely plain. All right. So that just gets centered on the inside of our card. And that gets closed. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is to actually put down this piece of pretty peacock. And there's a little trick to doing this. So I am going to line my card up with the center of my grid paper. And then I'm going to be able to lay this down, and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's do it as 3.5 and 3.5. And so that I don't have to keep remembering that, I am actually going to put some little marks here on my paper, and I'm going to glue that piece down just like that. So I'll get some glue onto the back of that. Okay, line this back up. So it's 3.5 and 3.5. And this is going on right at the crease. Okay, so it's right at the fold of the card. Now, just in case that wasn't exactly how it should be, instead of turning the card around, I'm actually just going to slide it over and line it up again. And we're going to take our other piece and glue it down using those same markings on the other side. So we've now just saved ourselves a ton of paper. This is a great trick to use, especially when you're using designer series paper that maybe you don't want to use up all of it. You want to be very sparing with it. We've just created a look like we had a 5.5-inch strip, but we've only used like 2 inches. So really, really handy that way. Now we've got this, and I'm going to just take a quick peek and see which way I would actually like this. Do I want the splatter going out that way or out that way? I think I want it this way. Okay, so we're going to glue this down onto here just like that. And again, I'm not going to use liquid glue for this because it's metallic. I am going to use my Seal Plus and just do a few little dabs on here to get that attached. All right. Oops. So the joy of just using a few dabs is that it does give you the ability to move it around a little bit before it sticks. Okay. So with that done, we can actually attach this to our card front using dimensionals now. So I'm going to put dimensionals in the 4 corners, and then you can use as many or as few as you'd like to kind of make sure that this stays supported. So I've just done that. So there's like 8 on here, but that's going to make sure that we don't get any saggy spots on our card. And this gets centered top to bottom and then left to right. So it's not an equal border on all sides, but you want these 2 to be equal and the top 2 to be equal. All right, there we go. Now we can stamp our sentiment and our leaves. Our leaves are going to be that big leaf again because we are going to punch them out, but I need to clean this up because I've got crumb cake on there, and we're going to switch back to Granny Apple Green like we did on the first card. The difference is that we're not going to do the veins on this one. I just found that they added a little bit too much distraction, to the card. So we're going to leave these just as they are. Okay. And our sentiment is going onto our little tag here in Pretty Peacock. We are going to grab that thanks so much that we used before. We're going to clean it up, even though, yes, we did stamp this one in Pretty Peacock before. We're going to use it a little bit differently for this card. I am actually going to grab 2 little sticky notes, and I am going to cover up the word so much. Okay. Try and get that to stick to the block. And 1 sticky note won't do it because we've also got that tall H there. So we're going to do a 2nd sticky note to cover up that side. So now all that we have left showing, oops, I covered up part of my S. There we go. All that we have left showing is the word thanks. Nothing else is visible here. I'm going to take my Pretty Peacock ink and smush it down, make a big mess. Then I'm going to remove those sticky notes, and over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to stamp my word thanks. Now I could have stamped it a little bit lower, but that's okay. So we've got the word thanks on there now, and just thanks. So that is now going to go onto our card, and we're going to put that on with dimensionals as well. And for this one, I'm actually going to use 3. And actually, I just want to make sure that I'm doing this far enough over. So I'm going to put my thanks right there. It's almost centered, but not quite. Then, you could use the Stampin' Right markers. Absolutely, Kim. I just find that they don't always give as crisp of an outline or like an image. And I find that very thin things are more difficult to color with them. That's the only reason I did not. But absolutely you could. All right, so I've got those 2 leaves punched out now. And what we're going to do is put these on with dimensionals, but obviously we're not going to put dimensionals here at the base because that's where it's overlapping onto our sentiment here. So I'm just going to use a dimensional on the tip of each of those, and then we can also put a little dab of seal at the bottom or a little dot of glue at the bottom to help the bases stick down to whatever they end up touching. All right, so let's peel those off. Now, my only thing that I want to make sure of here is that I'm covering up the other end of this banner so we don't see the other end. So I'm going to come in like this and stick that down, and then come in like that and stick that down. All right, so there we have that, and then we're going to finish up with adding our neutrals adhesive back sequence. And for this one, I actually used gold on this one. So we're going to come in, and again, we're just filling the white spaces. So it kind of looked empty there. And then we'll come down here and just add a little dash there. All right. And that is our 3rd card completed. So I'm just going to bring in all the cards that we created today so you can see what we've done. So there. So technically that's our 2nd card. That's our last card. And here is our 1st card. So that is the whole card class. So with a $60 purchase, you will get, using my host code, you will get the supplies you need the consumable supplies you need to create 2 of each of these cards. And then at home, you just need to have your inks, your stamp set, and your adhesives. But all the paper and the ribbon bits and everything that we used will come in your kit. You'll also get like a little, just exactly what you need in terms of the embellishment. But with a $70 order, you'll actually get a whole pack of the neutral adhesive back sequins added in as a special thank you from me. So that is this week's card class. How do I switch? There we go. Excellent. So if you are part of my team, these cards will be quite familiar. We created something similar, but just using a different color scheme when we created ours as our monthly team meeting pack. And so, yeah, if you want to know more about being a part of my team, getting these card classes and all of my weekly tutorials, my team gets as well. Definitely reach out and ask me some questions if you're in Canada. I would love to talk to you about that. And otherwise, $60 order gets you the make and take kit for this. If you're not in Canada, I do sell these tutorials. So I'm going to be going and posting this one on my page in just a moment. So I do sell just the tutorials for anybody outside of Canada. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day. I will be back next week, and I can't remember right now what set I'm featuring, but I've got another card class all ready to go for you guys next Wednesday. But right now you have from now until Sunday night to place an order using the host code in the description of this video to get this card kit. There's also information there about my upcoming catalog launch for our new September mini catalog that's coming out. And you can find out other things about stamping with me in person or online. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much, Lila. All right. Bye-bye.